Bases dropped on a new week of SDH AM. John, hear you there. Thanks for dropping by, as you always do. And it is a full week on a bunch of different fronts. We get back into Major League Soccer playoffs. We'll be focusing on that as we get later on in the week. We'll try and catch up with some of the folks that are on our short list. We can sit there and speed dial folks. We'll see if they can drop in on Thursday and Friday and break everything down for us. We've got to talk USMNT this morning. We've got to talk World Cup qualifying this morning. We've got to talk about what happened in lower divisions. Gabe Schray is going to be here. Don't know how awake he will be, considering that he and Matty Cruz called the SoCon Championship yesterday. And that one went for a while in Greenville, South Carolina, between UNC Greensboro and Furman. So we've got that to get into as well. If you missed it yesterday, late night, we've got your look at the brackets for the NCAA and NAIA teams that are up and running. We're still waiting for the Division II bracket to be filled, which is odd considering Division III, Division I, they're in. Division II, still waiting. But I think that's at 1 o'clock this afternoon, so we'll get that going, and then everybody else will fall in line. So we've got college. We've got USL League One. We've got a champion in Knoxville. We're going to be efforting, trying to see if we can catch up with folks out of Knoxville this week, considering that they now have a title. It's a packed house, by the way, if you missed it, with One Knox and Spokane Velocity. Great season for Spokane, coming up one match short. There's one call we've got to get into, and that particular match, once again, Gabe, if he's awake and coherent, joining us at 10:30 to break that down. Like I said, we got to get into what happened with the U.S. Men's National Team and the appearance of Gio Reyna and the appearance of Fisticuffs. And we'll hear from Mauricio Pochettino about the match in general and about what he saw with Gio Reyna. We'll go through all the numbers. Bart's on a plane. So unless he can figure out a way to commandeer the PA system and tap in and talk to us on a plane, we'll take the USMNT discussion and we'll carry it this morning there. So here's the rundown of the week as I know it. Let's see. We got Gabe coming up at 10:30. We put out the bat signal for Abe Gordon. We'll see what Abe wants to talk about coming up at 9:15 if he does. If he does have anything to talk about. Tuesday, Casey White's going to be joining us at 9:15, and we get a visit with the new front office at AC Grand Rapids. AC Grand Rapids, by the way, is one of the new franchises that is coming online in USL, and so the addition of AC Grand Rapids, once again, in one of those live, work, play environments that we notice in and of everything in USL. They're coming online for 2027, and we get to catch up with part of their front office. And so it's going to be cool to catch up and find out what's going on at AC Grand Rapids, as they went to Charlotte and got their new club president. And so it was it was a no-brainer for us to reach out and catch up with Darius Barnes, first president of AC Grand Rapids. He's going to be joining us tomorrow at 10 o'clock. So tomorrow, it's Casey White, 9:15. We're going to talk about NWSL. We're going to talk about stuff. And we're going to talk about the NCAA tournament and all the things, maybe a little MLS too. So Darius Barnes, first president of AC Grand Rapids, as they get ready for 2027. They are going to be in MLS Next Pro. And so we'll catch up with him about the why and all of that, and with his experience with Crown Legacy in Charlotte, why he wanted to go take this gig. We'll find out about that at 10 o'clock tomorrow. Tomorrow, 10:45, Jen Hildreth is going to join us to discuss anything and everything going on involving NWSL and what's been going on in college. And so Jen's going to be joining us, and she'll be on tomorrow. Standard folks on Wednesday, Tyler and Dylan. We'll try and figure out MLS, and we get ready for the matchups on the weekend. Nino and Nico on Thursday, and hopefully our friends from Beyond Goals Mentoring and Major League Soccer, they'll be joining us on Friday. And once again, we'll be filling in all the holes, see if we can catch up with Kaylor Hodges, find out what's going on with him as he gets ready for the USL Championship, and all of our friends that are going to be getting ready to watch their teams in Major League Soccer this weekend. So that's the rundown as we have it. Obviously, we've got a lot to get into this morning from what we had on the weekend. So it'll be good to see what is on everyone's mind here on a Reaction Monday. And so early thoughts from folks that have dived in. Morning, Ricky. Morning, Pars. Ricky, are you still in Europe? Yes. Scenes out of Knoxville. Absolutely true. There were scenes out of Knoxville. But we got to talk about that second goal. We really got to talk about that. And yes, the fantastic Irish moment, we have post-match involving that because we don't want to get dinged for showing or listening to too many highlights. So we've got post-game from RTE about the fantastic finish. The only thing missing was Alcoa Aluminum and the open there. And so it is so we'll catch up with everything that happened with Ireland and their finish, and we'll get you the standings. Remember, tonight it's going to be a full-blown rundown of everything going on in World Cup qualifying and picks of the week. That's going to be tonight at the Brew House. I think it's going to be tonight at the Brew House. I know that we're going to be doing soccer over there tonight at 8 o'clock. So 8 o'clock here on the network, soccer over there. We'll break down everything World Cup qualifying. We'll break down everything that we know and everything else going on around the planet. We'll catch you up tonight, 8 o'clock on the network. However you access this, YouTube, X, Twitch, audio later, tape, all the above. 8 o'clock tonight from the Brew House. It's another episode of soccer over there. And welcome back in, Pars. Okay, Ricky's been back for a week. Okay, good. So it seems like it was a bit of a parachute trip for you, but that's good. Welcome back. Glad you got back in one piece. Okay, so forgot to turn on the clock this morning. Man, it's like all of the matchups and everything. Okay. To get into what we were thinking about for World Cup qualifying, I don't know if you had the opportunity to catch up with the morning espresso. And if you have, I beg your forbearance in all of this. Part of what happened yesterday in World Cup qualifying is going to be opening kickoff, brought to us by our friends at Kickoff Coffee and kickoffcoffeeco.com. You hit your QR code right there. You start your day with Kickoff Coffee and kickoffcoffeeco.com. Go in, buy out the store. We want you to buy out the store because you can buy out the store at a 15% off rate if you use the code SoccerDownHere15 at checkout. You use that the QR code, you hit your QR code, you start your day, buy your coffee, Soccer Down Here 15, you buy out the store. They in turn take 10%, reinvest it into youth games, youth initiatives brought to us by our friends at Kickoff Coffee and kickoffcoffeeco.com. And so, because of this, we bring in Abe Gordon because I wanted to run through this with Abe when it comes to World Cup qualifying. So, good morning, sir. How hydrated are you, and how is the running going?
I'm questionably hydrated right now. Okay. I about midday, I was just telling someone in the back, they're like, yeah, likely excuse. About midday yesterday, I decided I probably could not or probably shouldn't wake up early to run today because I didn't trust my hydration. So I am going to chug from my jug, and then I will run this afternoon.
Right on. Okay. So you have come in at the perfect time because we had World Cup qualifying yesterday. And you may chug your jug as we're discussing this because I wanted to get your feedback on this now that you're here. We had AFCON qualifying yesterday for the Intercontinental Playoff, and so it's that one last chance for somebody to get in to try to get that last chance to get into the cup that the world will be chasing when they come here in 2026. Headline from The Independent. Nigeria coach alleges DR Congo, quote, did some voodoo during penalty shootout defeat in World Cup qualifying. Nigeria head coach Eric Schell reportedly confronted the opposition coaching staff after DR Congo advanced to the Intercontinental Playoffs with a penalty shootout victory. So, Schell accuses DR Congo players of doing voodoo during their penalty shootout over the Super Eagles. 1-1 draw. DR Congo wins 4-3 in penalties. Chancel Mbemba gets the game winner, converts from the spot. So, Nigeria, who failed to qualify automatically after finishing behind South Africa in group, have missed out on yet another World Cup final. We continue. Bossi and Simone missed their first two penalties, and I don't care about this pop-up ad. Goodness gracious, people. I have young people who are trying to look pretty and show off watches, and I really don't care. So coach speaks to reporters in the mix zone, asked about the confrontation that he had after the match. Quote, during the penalty shootout, the players of Congo did some voodoo every time. So this is why you had a deflected opener, canceled out by an equalizer, and you have a coach who is now assuming that voodoo was the reason that they lost. Have you ever done voodoo, sir, when you are playing soccer?
No. I mean, I might like cross my fingers and hope someone misses high or wide or goes the way I'm diving or whatever. But that's not, I wouldn't say a curse of any stretch. It actually, though, while you were reading through that, it did make me think of like the next step in like analytics to some level would be like bringing a mentalist on board as your backup goalie.
Okay.
And if he's a good goalie and a good mentalist, you could just sub him in late, and then he can kind of work his literal and figurative magic ahead of each kick and diagnose from what he knows about the other taker which way he's going to go, or he can influence the decision. So a goalkeeping mentalist, it's, children's book or real life African star, who knows?
Yes. So Nigeria opens the scoring. You get a deflected strike. Chancel Mbemba scores the winning penalty. The head coach confronted several members of DR Congo's staff, including the head coach, Sebastian Desaab, had to be separated from them by members of Nigeria's backroom team. At the end of the press conference, the coach asked reporters why they hadn't brought up the incident at the end of the match. Speaking French, he then presented his version of events. Quote, DR Congo guys were doing maraboutage. Technically a Muslim holy man, marabout has connotations of a North African witch doctor. He later doubled down on his allegations in English, walking through the mix zone. During all of the penalties, the players of Congo were doing some voodoo. A representative of DR Congo denied Shell's claims when asked by The Athletic. So maraboutage, I believe, is the word of the day that we did.
Is that specifically outlined by FIFA as illegal? Why not do your own voodoo? Maraboutage.
This is what I'm saying. This is what I'm saying. Oh my God, it's a mirage. We're telling y'all it's maraboutage. I mean, it's just, I'm not shocked that you would have something out of right field come out here like this. But I mean, it's been a first time in a while, I think, that we have had this kind of an incident reported by a coach who doubled down on it. He goes in the presser, he says it once, then he goes to the mix zone, says it again. I mean, anything.
Yeah, I mean, I guess the thing is, like, is this guy just a sore loser? And obviously, it's a big moment and it's a big fall. But like, is it just a sore loser thing, and that's what he went with, or like, to what extent does he really believe this is impacting? Look, look. Just because I don't believe that stuff is real doesn't mean that he's not allowed to. And if he truly felt that was an impact, fair, that's fair for him to stay and ride with. But for me, who's like, all right, like, now we've heard it all, sort of thing. I'm just like, all right, just handle your losses a little bit better. But if he truly believes that made the difference, I would have asked why. If you believe in that, you're not supplying that of your own.
See,
you don't have a counter. Is there no, undo the voodoo, or how does that work? I mean,
yeah, you got to find a way to undo the voodoo that they do so well. I mean, that's kind of how this is. But you're that close, and you have to latch onto something. So I guess you thought that was what was going to be. Major League Soccer had the weekend off. What did you pay attention to? Did you pay attention to the Falcons and the fairly soon?
I want to go back to the schedule change for MLS. Yeah, it just felt like there were a lot of uninformed takes since they announced it last week, and it's just a lot of people who were, this doesn't make sense, and here's why. And look, I think there are criticisms.
Yeah.
No matter what the schedule is going to be, but it just, for me, and I guess since we were talking about international break, that's because there were no MLS playoff games. If there were MLS playoffs games, like, I probably wouldn't have seen them. Like, I've stood for a while I'd rather bury the first 2/3 of the season than bury the final third of the season, including the playoffs. And I just think going against college and pro football has left MLS in an absolute no man's land.
Are you sure?
Yeah, I do.
Okay, because if you're a fan, you're going to find
in terms of trying to maximize the popularity of the sport. If you're just comfortable with, like, here's our fan base and they're going to watch soccer over football, fine. I just don't think that's really the best scenario overall. If you're trying to get more casual viewers to pay attention, especially to the most important games of your season, decision day and the playoffs. Putting that against the NFL or against college football, no one's watching. Okay. And again, when I mean no one, I mean the casual general soccer fan who maybe is interested in their team, especially if they have a football team and a soccer team, same city, which a number of these teams do, or even fan bases. I just think you're drawing the short straw. So I've always thought that you're gonna bury your season against football at some point, one way or the other. I've always said bury the first half, kind of like college basketball does, and then when it's time to explode, when it's time to dive all the way in, because all you have is college basketball and a little bit of the start of baseball season. Hockey and basketball are going, but they haven't reached their playoffs yet.
Right.
In terms of maximizing viewers, I just felt it was a better path forward. Again, are you trying to get people interested? Because here's what's happened now. Mm-hmm. In my opinion, people get interested in the season, and if things go well, unlike with Atlanta, people buy into the year, and then there's just the drop-off, and you can't avoid the drop-off. But you did have people buy in for a stretch. Are you willing to risk that people are probably not going to buy in for the first whatever many months of this season, even though there's a break in there as well, with the hopes that they then pick up later in the year? And maybe some never pick up because they tune in and their team's got 9 points in 20 matches. And you're like, well, so much for this year. But I just think in terms of maximizing viewers, avoiding the biggest games of your season, going against college and pro football was a necessity. In terms of the weather aspect of it and playing in cold cities and all that, I think you can shape it the way that baseball kind of does as well at the start of their season. And in the harshest winter months, you have in the non-climate controlled environments, more of a road likelihood, a road path to some of the cities in the southern parts of the United States that maybe are a little less affected, or in those arenas that are temperature controlled no matter where they are. But I mean, look, you look at baseball, it's rare. It happens, but it's rare for, the Cleveland Guardians to start the season
without snowfall.
Yeah, it happens here and there, but they try and do their best to avoid a situation where you're just dealing with a blizzard at the start of the year. And I think you could do that in MLS as well. So that's a little less concerning to me, but that is something to focus on, sure.
And David comes in this morning and he says, to your point, in tandem with the alignment taking games out from behind the paywall, tandem move to try to get the casual fan serving.
I actually think this is going to make, and I know Apple's very clearly not happy with their agreement, and they're probably going to bail as soon as they can. That's why they shortened the length of the contract and all that. I actually think this may get more people to just buy Apple TV than anyone who had Apple TV wanted to buy season pass. Like, I think this is a much better general addition to Apple, a more attractive option for anyone who previously had not gotten Apple because they wanted to watch MLS, but weren't going to pay for Apple and season pass. Mm-hmm. I'd be interested to see what the numbers are for this. So I think this is a good addition.
Yep, and you have the length of the contract. Let me get the notes, Abby.
Well, it was like 2032, and now it's down to 2029, I think, something like that. Yeah.
And so, and the metrics have been changed. The financials have been changed on the deal, and so it's a little bit more lucrative in quotation marks for Major League Soccer with this short version of the schedule. So, I mean, it will be. It definitely will be intriguing because I want to see, and the numbers that were given and instantaneously denied by Apple were that there are 45 million subscribers to Apple TV, and Apple was just like, we don't know what you're talking about. So you've got it ends in 29, and this comes from, once again, The Athletic. Once it's ending at the end of the 28-29 season, 3.5 years earlier than expected. Sportico had reported on Friday. 10-year deal pared down. It's going to end after 6.5. Confirming the details of the agreement, they're going to be paid $200 million for the 26, $107.5 for the sprint season.
We need to talk about that, by the way.
Yes, we do. Running February to May of 27 as your bridge to get you onto the calendar that you're chasing. Then the league's going to get $275 a year for the final 2 seasons of the deal, which is going to be the league's first in that new summer to winter, summer to spring deal. Deal's going to pay MLS about $50 million more than it would have been paid in that time frame under the initial terms of the deal, which had increasing payments over the life of the contract, flexibility now to Apple, which has an earlier out, and they can also re-up if they so choose. And so that's where we are. Okay, sprint season. They need a better name.
Yeah, well, chaos year is what it's going to be. I mean, look, I think in every sport you look at why are they playing this many games, and it's because sample size matters. And it's just, I'm really interested to see if anyone believes the table, the standings will be a true representation of where teams are at that time. It just, I mean, heck, even Atlanta United started the year off hot, right? And so it's going to be interesting with that few games. Over time, the sample doesn't really even out. So that's going to be a chaos year, and anything could happen. And I would just in general not expect the best team to win Supporter Shield or the Cup, just because of how short the year is.
Yep. League sources said numbers were up this year on season pass, boosted in part by Sunday Night Soccer. Garber said playoff numbers in the first round also up. Apple exec Eddie Q, who's been a vocal proponent of MLS changing in order to enhance the on-field product, both in flipping the calendar, but also in how it spends money on players. Yeah, go ahead.
They can say, like, it's just the playoff numbers being up. They can say that, and that's fine. Like, there's just no way they're getting more eyes now than they will next year. Or when you flip the season, it's just so obvious to me. And again, it goes back to avoiding football, but it's just so obvious to me how much you're going to benefit from not going up against football. And again, maybe it's at the detriment of a majority or 2/3, whatever the length of the regular season coinciding is, but like, I just see no way around it how it's not beneficial. I don't know if you are in favor of it. And I'm not even talking about from the soccer aspect of aligning with the other leagues and transfer windows and all that stuff, but just from the viewership standpoint, you're going to have more people watching the most important games at the end of the year than you've ever had, on Apple, at least.
Yeah, and I think that this was something that had been discussed for years, and to get in line with the rest of the planet, even if I'm looking at it specifically from integration with the other transfer windows, because if you look at it the way that it's structured currently, there have been always those conversations where, hey, the Major League Soccer franchise either has to jump on something early because it's that window, or late in the window, and you're trying to figure out, okay, who's left when the international windows have passed. This window's passed. I can't get anything out of Europe. Do I go to Turkey? Do I go to South America? Where am I trying to get these assets to try to help me out? Now you're in line with everybody else, so you're not having to either jump in early and maybe pay more for someone just to be at the front of the line, or late and try to figure out, okay, I need to fill out my roster. What can I get here?
Yeah, the other thing, and it may have no impact or no change at all. I don't know the specifics, but I know here in Atlanta, and I imagine every other club, and maybe not the Canadian clubs, because I'll be honest, I don't know how it works up there. But like, maybe this also helps avoid the nonsense visa issues where a guy's on your team and just for 5 weeks or 8 games, you're like, well, he still can't play because the visa is a problem. Like, it'd be nice if somehow, I don't know the specifics, but if this schedule would maybe help with that visa issue, because there's nothing more frustrating than being excited about a guy and then watching him sit out for 4 games because whoever needs to get in line with the government and all that just can't get going. And again, I don't know if it works that way in Canada, but like that is one of the most frustrating aspects of transferring for me. It's just like getting a guy, wanting to see him take off with a club, and then be like, yeah, maybe next week we'll get him in the 11. I don't know.
Check my watch. Let's see if we can figure out what's going on. No doubt. Yeah, I think the Canadian, now that it has been agreed with that this is going to be the schedule change, I think the Canadian window is also going to lock in.
Yeah, they're aligning. Yeah.
So they're aligning as well. And so we'll see how it impacts everything. Yeah, you went back to a topic that I had on the board that I had forgotten to discuss with you. So I'm glad we did. Real quick before you get out of here, NWSL to ATL, what'd you think?
Yeah, again, there's going to be a lot of integration with Atlanta United. I still have a number of questions. I I'll throw out an idea here for you.
Okay.
And I thought about like running this by Voice of Atlanta United, Mike Conti, my boss, just to see if this is the dumbest possible thing I could say publicly here
Okay.
on your platform.
Okay.
How about for first manager of whatever they call this team,
Mm-hmm.
Brad Guzan?
Well, I think Brad is looking more for either TV or front office. I don't know if he's a.
I don't know. Again, I don't know what he's interested in, but I think he would be a good manager, and I think that would be a good first step if that's his path. So again, it might be the dumbest thing I could possibly say publicly, but the idea came to me, and I saw he was doing some charity appearances with United, obviously still integrated with the organization, which is not a surprise. And
No.
so I don't know, it just kind of popped up. I think it'd be a fun little cool thing, but at the same time, you're trying to do this right. You're trying to get off the ground the way that Atlanta United did. You're probably trying to hire as a top tier manager as you can, and you know, not that Brad wouldn't be that, but I certainly understand why you wouldn't want a first time person leading that group of women.
Emma Hayes, you're on the clock. So what are you up to in the next week before we recycle and catch up again?
Oh, we're just trying to save jobs or open jobs. I don't know. The Falcons are not good. It's not good. No. They find a kicker. I think that guy squeezed a couple in barely.
Yeah, I know. Young Wei Koo, I think, missed some kicks with the Giants yesterday too, if memory serves. So
no, I didn't pay attention. I saw Jameis was doing Jameis things, and that was fun.
Yes, as the Florida State alum in this conversation, I can relate to that. As always, my friend, great to see you to kick off the week and bring things to the table that I completely forget to bring to the table. And it's always good to see you, and we'll catch up with you next week.
Sounds good, John.
There he goes. There goes the properly hydrated Abe Gordon. And so Abe is going to, Abe's going to do his thing. He's going to go chug the jug, and he's going to get hydrated. And he's going to run like 98 miles between now and then. So it's going to be another week of fitness for Abe. So Commando, we don't know. Commando wants to know how it's going to affect Leagues Cup. Don't know how this is going to integrate with the other cup competition. Don't know how this is going to work with Open Cup. Don't know how this is going to work with Leagues Cup. And don't know how this is going to go with any of this. And so this is basically like, all right, we're doing this and we'll figure it out. So the integration, we're doing the schedule change. We're going to figure it out. And so that's kind of where Major League Soccer is right now. But yeah, the integration with the other tournaments that you traditionally see MLS clubs with, that's the next question. In addition to all the others with, with the look of, all right, how's this going to affect the cap? How's this going to affect players? We know it's going to be in line with transfer windows, all those kinds of things, the off the field stuff. On the field stuff, we don't know. But we don't know yet when it comes to, and my guess is that the discussion will happen after we turn the calendar to 26 and go through the 26 schedule. And then everybody who are involved in the powers that are with those tournaments are going to sit there and go, well, this, and this. I wonder how it will work with Leagues Cup to try to integrate what's going on, with the Liga MX schedule. And that Apple is going to be an interested party in that. But yeah, Open Cup. How does this affect Open Cup? We'll find out. One other quote from Don Garber from the Tenorio piece at The Athletic. He acknowledged the league is under pressure to get its media rights to a more meaningful place, and that's Tenorio's wording, especially as it tries to evolve its business into one that can be more competitive within the sport globally and within American markets in terms of relevance. Okay, I'm going to put a bookmark in that for a second. Right now, I think it's safe to say that Major League Soccer is a top 12, if not a top 10 league in the world. And yes, you had to do certain things to get to that top 5, top 6. You're not going to get past England. You're not going to get past Germany. And you're not going to get past, another couple of leagues overseas. You're not going to get past them, but you can get right up to them. You can be a top 5 league, and I think that this is one of those steps that needed to be taken. And remember, this is a league that is 30 years old, going up against leagues and countries that have had organized play for, a century, if not more. Yes, the league structure has been different, but you're 30 years into something that has been financially sound, and you're now making this move to align with the international calendar. How does it go forward? Garber said, I think, quote, I think it certainly has to happen in order for us to be what we want to be, which was going to require us to have more revenues, to be able to continue to invest in both infrastructure, player development, and signing great players, so we could have a product that can compete with a very competitive soccer/football market globally. So we look forward to continuing a relationship with Apple. Hopefully that grows our audience. And if our audience grows, that will deliver value for Apple, certainly deliver value for us, because we'll have a larger audience to be able to think about how could we monetize that sometime in the future. Eddie Q, as a part of his conversations, he mentions, of course, Messi and friends. I'm excited. There are teams that are definitely pushing hard. Obviously, what Inter Miami has done is an example of that, and I think there needs to be more teams doing that, and I think there will be. And this is what Q said back at Messi and Friends season opener in 24. At least I've seen it enough now to know there's a level of excitement when anybody asks, what do I want from anybody, any of the teams? I'm like, sign some more players, exclamation point. I appreciate where Eddie Q is coming from. It's not that simple. You hope that the cap will increase. You need to add a fourth DP. But the league has not gotten, Major League Soccer has not gotten to its place by pulling the governor out of the golf cart and pulling the golf tee out of the engine and sitting there and just saying, okay, everybody invest what you want. Not everybody's going to play that way. If you legitimately look at what is available to owners and their ideas, sure, some owners will invest. We know that certain owners will invest, Arthur Blank being one of those. I think that, having the international windows align with Major League Soccer now aligning with the international windows when it comes to player transfers, I think that will help out. But this isn't something right now where you can just sit there and say, well, I just want to take a suitcase of $150 million and just kind of throw it at the issue, when you can't do that currently. If you look at the clubs, legitimately, if you look at the clubs in Major League Soccer, yes, teams want to invest more, but there are those that will not, because that is a part of their DNA and it's a part of their model. Philadelphia will not, to the extent that others are. Philadelphia believes in their model of building from within, making the strategic selection, and then going from there. It's not where they're going to sit there and drop $19, $20 million on a player and bring them in. Work with the academy, work with the twos, get those players involved and engaged, find out where your holes are, and then make the $8 to $10 million purchase to help you out when it comes to those positions of need. And they're going to get to a point fairly soon, because with an aging roster, you're going to have some decisions that have to be made. Cincinnati, you figure they're on the edge. I figure if they're going to be looking at everybody else around and they see people investing, they're going to be like, we got to keep up with the Joneses, and they'll invest. Messi and friends will invest. They want to try and find ways to, how do we phrase this? Circumvent caps and things, and they got dinged for that when they tried to have 5 DPs when you're only allowed 3. And then Santi Sosa body checked Blaise Matuidi into retirement. Charlotte, I don't know. I think that they kind of want to do things as some kind of a hybrid. They want to build with Crown Legacy, but then they want to sell folks on. But then do they want to invest fully with the money that they get back from those player sales? That to me is the question with Charlotte. NYC at City Football Group, you figure they'll invest if they're given the chance. Nashville, I don't know. You bring in Sam Surridge, you did well. You paired him with Hani Mukhtar, okay, great. Would you be in that position to want to invest Boku bucks to bring players into Nashville as they continue to grow? Columbus, Columbus is going to have some questions, it seems, and they're going to come very quickly. Columbus has been known to invest, and they have been known to invest strategically well. But the question is, at the moment, about Wilfried Nancy. And it appears that Wilfried Nancy might be heading to Celtic. We'll probably talk about more of this tonight. But Wilfried Nancy is on the short list for Celtic. If he goes, bully for him and get into Celtic. And I think that the Scottish soccer fan might be in for a bit of a rude awakening, because you have someone who is very good at what he does coming from Major League Soccer. And there have been those standard fan pieces that have popped out on social media involving what if you bring in a manager from America? And then you have the standard, I don't know about that. I'm not awake enough to do a Scottish accent at the moment. But you've got your Scottish fans poo-pooing the idea of Wilfried Nancy going over to Celtic. I hate to break it to Scottish fan, but Wilfried Nancy, if you let him cook, he's going to be dangerous. And it looks like one of two players might be targeted from Crew. According to the Daily Record, it looks like Diego Rossi might be one of them. And there's also talk on Jason Russell-Rowe. If those two signings happen, then Wilfried Nancy is going to be getting a very, very good start with a roster at Celtic. Obviously, we'll keep an eye on that. But then, obviously, you're going to get compensated, but it might be a couple of $1 million. What does Columbus do in the offseason? You brought in Wissam Abu Ali, wasn't healthy the entire time. You'll have him healthy coming out of the blocks for a season. And I know at some point we do need to catch up with our friend Chris Dorr, and probably when this is official, we'll catch up with Chris and find out what the temperature is in Columbus. But will Columbus invest? I think they would, to a point. Would Chicago invest? I think they would, considering that they are building their own barn and they need to have that spark to go in. Obviously, you have the spark when you brought in Zinkernagel and Kuipers and Berhalter. Do you continue to invest? I think you would. I don't think it'd be out of control spending, but I think you would. Orlando, don't know. New York Red Bulls, they have their system. I don't think you would invest. I think that you would find players that would fit the Red Bull system and then fill in your holes from there. Would New England? Don't know. You would think that Robert Kraft would. They have been investing in spots, but not on the whole. Toronto, they're going to throw money at anything. Doesn't matter if it's U.S. dollars or Canadian dollars. They're going to throw money at the problem. They always do. Montreal, Joey Saputo, he's not. And if he does, and he's not instantly gratified with the transaction and what things are happening on the field, then he'll yell at his coach. And Arthur Blank is going to invest. DC, I don't know if they're going to invest. I don't know what DC is looking at. I don't know what happens when Christian Benteke's contract is up. I don't know what you're looking at when it comes to investing in players. I really don't. In the West, San Diego has been frugal. They had a chance to keep Milan Olaski. They didn't. He went to Philly. You see what's happened. Mikey Veras has built down the spine. I'm intrigued by San Diego. Would they invest down in the future? Vancouver has done it strategically. You bring in a Thomas Mueller and you see the difference. Finding the player at the position to help your roster that you have built. LAFC, they're investing. They already have. Minnesota, not so much. Seattle, they will to a point. Austin tried to invest and they didn't get bang for their buck. Was that the players that they were looking for, that it's their issue, or was it the front office and the administration looking after particular players? I do want to see a full season of Brandon Vasquez healthy. U.S. Open Cup hero Brandon Vasquez healthy in that system with Nico Estevez. Dallas, I don't know. They seem to, and Eric Quill wants to build from within, so I'm leaning toward no, or not necessarily. They're not going to break the bank to bring folks in. Portland, they have, but they're not going to just drop $50 million and bring in like 2 players. RSL, not so much. San Jose, don't know, don't think so, especially as long as John Fisher is owner. Just ask the folks in Oakland about that. Colorado, I think they're strategic in their pickups. I would be intrigued to see what would happen. Houston, you would think that with Ted Siegel, you would invest folks. We need to get our friend Glenn Davis on the show to ask about Houston specifically. St. Louis, I think they are happy at the moment finding that strategic pick and building from within. When you have a Mekhi Joyner, I think that you're happy. When you have a Brendan McSorley, I think you're happy with what you've found and you've built through your system with the twos. Then it's trying to find that strategic pickup to help you in a position of need. LAG, they're going to spend money. Kansas City, that would be an interesting one. Are they going to spend money? So if you were to open up the coffers, just sit there and it's like, all right, we're going to add a fourth DP. We're going to boost the salary cap. We're going to do these kinds of things with what Eddie Q at Apple said in 2024. I think you're going to have most of the teams. They're going to kind of push the door open a little bit. You're going to have a couple of teams that are going to want to kick the door down, but you'll have a couple of folks sit there and knock and then open the door and kind of peer inside. And then you'll obviously have folks that believe in their system and they'll build from within and they won't. So as long as those clubs don't feel the peer pressure of wanting to build, grow, evolve like everybody else, build your own mousetrap, you're fine. You look at everybody else that sits there and it's like, well, do I want to do it that way? Oh, I don't want to miss out. And you have those teams maybe in the middle that are FOMO and they might want to sit there and go, oh, I don't know. Yeah. The peer pressure of the new contract and everything and changing over a schedule and all those kinds of things. So that's kind of where I'm looking at it. If you were to add that fourth DP, if you were to sit there and add to the cap a little bit, not everybody is going to be Messi and friends. That's just their way. That's what they have chosen. And I will continue to wonder what they're going to do in 2+1 years when Messi and friends are just and friends. Who's the next big gun that you bring in to try to take that next wave and go forward? That, to me, is the larger question in all of this down in Fort Lauderdale. You've got all this momentum to build this new facility. You've got this park, and you sign Messi to a contract extension. What happens when Lionel Messi decides he's mortal and wants to stop? What happens? Who do they bring in that's going to have as much stroke as Messi has, that has partnered with the league as much as he has? And this is the other thing I think that you will see out of this. And it will be for the occasional player. It won't necessarily be for everybody. It'll be available for everyone, but I don't think everyone would be in a position to take advantage of it to the extent that Lionel Messi has. You've got to do your NIL deal and have that available so it doesn't counteract the cap. And I think that's what they were doing, and that's what they are doing in Fort Lauderdale with the rest of the Gulfstream Galacticos. Alba, Busquets, Suarez, DePaul, etc. Sign them deals, have them do endorsement stuff on the side that doesn't impact what's going on. That's how Messi made, 52 last year? Had north of 20 in salary, but then you had endorsements and all the commercials that we saw with him where he was multiple Messis having to deal with home improvement. And you end up with something that goes from 20, where he only counts against the cap a certain number because he's a DP. But his salary is 20, endorsements get him to 52 or so. Teams are going to have to become more nimble when it comes to signing folks to these kinds of deals and figure out, okay, what's my cap? What can I pay him? I can pay you this. Then you've got these endorsement deals from these sponsors that are lined up. So that way you're not going to do anything that's going to break a rule inside Major League Soccer. You're getting more endorsement money and you're still under contract the way that you can be in the league. So I think that's one of the bigger things. I think that the league is going to have to be, in the front offices are going to have to be, if they want to bring in those kinds of talents, they're going to have to be more nimble when it comes to those kinds of individuals that you want to bring in. Who is that early 30s star, Harry Kane, that you bring in to be that next Messi-like contract under Major League Soccer, who is still going to be productive and not just be someone that's going to be a traffic cone out there getting a deal. Probably somebody involving City Football Group with their new barn. I would anticipate that. So keep an eye out for these tweaks. This being a large tweak, this is a twist. Changing the schedule to be in line with the international window. This way, when it comes to you moving players on or bringing players in, you're in line with everybody else around the planet. You're not sitting there going, you're not chasing after players like I was telling Abe. You're not chasing after players that are available to you early that you feel you have to overpay for so you get them. Or you're lying in wait late to figure out, okay, these countries are open. Do I still go in here and try and find folks? More places are open for you to go to the shopping window, either in sales or in purchase. And so now that in 27, that opportunity is there for you. The sprint season, I know that Abe, we didn't necessarily get into it a lot with Abe, but I think that the chaos of that sprint season, you're going to have teams that are going to have quick triggers because they want to win that sprint coming out of the regular season. Regular season 26 being what it is, then you go straight into training camp after a couple of weeks. You go into your sprint season, then you take your break, then you're going to alignment with everybody else. I wonder about quick triggers in the sprint season. If you didn't do well in the 26, you don't do well in the sprint early. Do you jettison your manager there, finish your sprint, then get you ready? That sets up your 27 schedule internationally. That way you have these managers that could be available to you in the sprint season that you can pick up for the 27-28 realignment. Keep an eye out for that too. I know that we're talking about stuff that's, year and a half down the line, but it's just food for thought, stuff to think about for everything in an involved, if I could get my upper plate to work, in an involved MLS calendar going forward. So that's the fun part. Pars, is there a point where the teams who want to spend want to pull away from those that don't? Then we potentially see a second tier. The only way, Pars, I think we see a second tier is if we get to 32. If you get to 32, you've got to make the decision that you got to go to 40. And if you go to 40, then you have 220s, and then you get that second tier. I think that's the only way that happens. I don't think it's necessarily attached to spending. I just think that it's attached to the idea of, hey, Major League Soccer thinks that they can get to 40 teams in their first division. Then you sit there and it's like, well, okay. Then if you get to 40, if you're thinking about 40 seriously, then you've got to think about 20 and 20. Then you've got to think about the conversation that we have consistently with owners and front office folks in USL, specifically in USL League One. A, are you happy with the terms? B, are you comfortable in spending that kind of money, especially if you get promoted? Are you cool with it? Some teams right now in League Two, they may not necessarily dig, the whole promotion idea. They might be for it, but you've got to be for it as a group. And if you play well enough, like a One Knox did in winning a title, then if the model that they have in USL comes to the fore, they would be promoted. Spokane would be promoted. Are they cool with that kind of an expenditure? The owners know this going in. Are they cool with spending more money once they get promoted? And are owners who would be, say, Westchester, just to give you, well, no, because that's USL League One. If you were to look at USL Championship, and we'll talk to Kaylor about this later in the week, now that we bring this up. If you were to take, say, Birmingham and Vegas, just as an example. If you take Birmingham and Vegas as the two teams that finished last in the respective conferences in USL Championship, Would Vegas Lights be cool with dropping to USL League One? I know that fear is a great motivator, but would Vegas be okay with it? Would Legion be okay with it? Yes, owners have to sign off on this kind of stuff for it to happen in the USL verse, but are they really happy? Are they really down with this? Because the last thing you need is somebody who sits there and signs an agreement as an owner, and then they're like, yeah, I'm for promotion relegation, I'm all in. And then it's your team that gets relegated, and you're like, no. And then you have a frustrated owner who would say sell as his team gets relegated and then detach from the situation. So that to me is a larger question in USL. Like I said, well, next time we have Kaler on, we'll discuss that with Kaler and find out what the legit, what his folks are saying about ProRel, USL. Are folks really cool with this? With all the money that they've invested, you end up last. You're cool going down. I mean, it's more than just the idea of being cool going down, but nevertheless, it's the level of investment. Are you going to continue to invest what you have if your team gets relegated to USL League One? If your team in that first division gets relegated to championship, are you cool with that? Or are you going to stomp your feet in the corner and just find a puddle of water and, sit there and go like this? Stomp your feet and sit there and go, Mummy, I'm not interested. But you said you were going to do it, but I'm not interested anymore. That kind of a thing. So that it's intriguing on a bunch of different levels about the spend in the U.S. footprint right now. I'm intrigued. Yeah, and Pars anticipates the next person's more money motivated than Messi. David, primary versus secondary transfer windows, like days to be open. Let's MLS primary transfer windows. Let's work through this here. We'll see if I can type early on a Monday. All right, so key dates for the 25 season under the current structure. And like I said, I mean, this will change. Primary transfer window was the end of January to late April in 25. Secondary window was late July through the 21st of August. So Friday, January 31st, Wednesday, April 23rd. Secondary window, Thursday, July 24 to Thursday, August 21. In 25, Major League Soccer said the secondary transfer window will shift later to better align with the global transfer market. So you could see that they were already figuring out, okay, so if we slide it and have it be that 57 days, then we're in line with the secondary window, more with clubs in Europe beginning their seasons and MLS trying to jump in there if teams are interested in players from Major League Soccer, or if Major League Soccer is interested in players abroad. So that secondary window slid to 57 days, late July to late August. Primary window is still that beginning of the season window at Major League Soccer where teams in Europe are hip deep in their seasons. And literally you're trying to find folks that want to make the cash. They want to make the cash. Hey, you've got a dude. We want him. And then this way, once again, currently the way the market is structured with that primary window, I think what you've been doing, and like I said, this is probably more a question for front office personnel, but I think we can extrapolate the idea that Major League Soccer franchises have probably been paying a little more than they should, or in line with the rest of the planet, because they're in that window and teams are playing, and you're messing up that team chemistry if you want to bring somebody out of the European theater. If you want to send somebody in, it's an addition. It's an addition for the European clubs. They're like, okay, cool, we'll bring in that guy. And what you're trying to do is you're trying to do it either when the season's over, signing pre-contracts. You're trying to get the calendar to work with the contract, the end of the contract, signing a pre, or what have you. But that primary window starting for Major League Soccer in January, it's like, okay, so we want that guy. Well, I'm in the middle of my season right now. What's it worth to you? Major League Soccer club is like, well, what about this? Team overseas is like, well, I'm in the middle of my season. You got to make it worth my we got to make it worth my time. Well, what about this? Well, I'm in the middle of my season. And so this way you're not running up against that brick wall anymore. Come 27, you just have that 26 window in the primary that you're, and I don't think, and I think maybe the 27 window, but I think they'll probably try to twist that somehow. The secondary transfer window, you're in line with the rest of the planet. That primary window, you're probably having to overpay for resources because those teams overseas, they're in their different window. But do not be surprised if the window gets adjusted as you get into that season in 26 and 27. So right now, the primary window looks like it's the one that's the major stumbling block in trying to be in line economically to where you're not going to that grocery store, the hip and trendy grocery store where they've got all the really cool things that are either organic or, new or flashbacks. And you sit there and it's like the impulse buy. You sit there and it's like, well, my doctor said I should my doctor said I should try this. Well, hey, you can go to that new grocery store down the street and they can get it to you. But man, I look at this and it's like $17.50. I can go to, the normal grocery store, get something close to it and pay $8. But this is the one you really want. And it's selling out really bad. Well, I guess I've got to buy this now for $17.50. You're running into that in that primary window. You're getting to pay normal prices. If you've got your shopper's card in the secondary window, you're fine with your shopper's card. But the shopper's card somehow doesn't seem to work really well in that primary window for Major League Soccer right now from late January to late April. It's like you try to sit there and you enter your cell number on the cash register and it sits there and goes, please re-enter cell number. And you pull out the card, and it doesn't want to function. This card is expired. Sign up for our new card. That's what you're getting into right now in the primary window. All the headaches at the cash register. It's like you're in a hurry. You got to make that dinner party by 7:30 and it's like 6:45 and you've got 30 minutes in traffic to get there and your card's not working. Your frequent shopper's card isn't working. And you thought you were getting the deal that you were getting on that particular special. Like you go back to the deli and you get like the dinner plate, X with the card and then like $4 more if you don't have the card. You're running into that right now if you're Major League Soccer. You're rushing to the party. You're like, oh crap, I've got to get something I've got to take to the party. You grab that dinner plate that's got the 3 cheeses and the crackers and the meat slices and everything, and then you run to the express lane to try to get to the party on time. And there's either like a line of 9 people in front of you, or your card doesn't work, your frequent shopper's card doesn't work, you need a new ATM card, or the strip is broken and it's telling you that you've got to insert the card or try the transaction again when your card works. That's what you're getting into right now in the primary transfer window. Hopefully, after the next couple of windows, you won't have to worry about it and you won't have to wait until spring and summer for your card to work and the lines to die down because everybody's at the pool already. So that's what you're staring at. All of the things, people. All the things. And then Pars wants to know, is adding the relegation something that improves the league on the world stage? When it comes to USL, I think USL is just trying to be their own thing here in this hemisphere. I don't know, and this is legitimately USL is the only one who's talking anything regarding promotion relegation. They've talked about it in boardrooms. They've talked about it as an idea. They're talking about it with this first division coming online because then that sets up the true pyramid. It's got to be okayed by U.S. Soccer. For Major League Soccer is doing their own thing. They're cool and they're down with everything that they're doing right now. We're good. And it's like you're sitting there and you're taking your test and teachers over your shoulder looking at it and you're sitting there and teacher's like, you okay? Yeah, I'm good. I'm cool. Yeah, I'm good. So Major League Soccer, they're good taking their test. USL is thinking they might have to be a little different. Ricky's bringing in the coaching search. Mancini, that might be more of his. Ricky's like, is anybody kind of surprised Mancini was a finalist for the Atlanta United job? He might have been just looking for a gig. And I think that he was probably looking for a paycheck, and he thought that Major League Soccer was just going to be something he could waltz into and sit there and go, yeah, I think we're good. Brings in a staff. They pay an ish ton of money. So Mancini, who bottomed out in national team, decided he wanted to get paid. So he goes to Qatar and, so you sign a 2-year deal in Qatar. Does that, to me, mean you're serious, or does that mean you want to check? He did not do well as a national team manager. And so if he was one of the finalists, as it was reported, I'd love to know, compared to Tata Martino, who we know came in with probably a dossier about that thick, and I'm holding my fingers, for those of you just listening, I'm holding my fingers about 3 inches apart. Tata came in with his PowerPoints and his notebooks and all the things. Was Mancini and I'm guessing this was just, Mancini sitting there going, having his agent kick the tires. Yeah, Atlanta United's open. What about that? Yeah, they'll pay. I wonder what his agent was thinking. Yeah, if the agent's like, yeah, my client's interested. Okay, so what does he know about the franchise? Yeah, the first couple of questions from the franchise for Atlanta United, that might have DQ'd Mancini. But yeah, considering that how well he did not do as a national team manager, then he decides to take the paycheck in Qatar. I want to know what good he does in Qatar for 2 years. What does he do in 2 years in Qatar? And then the other names that were on that list, obviously Tata, not a surprise. Obviously, we know what the end of the story was there. But you look at the other names that were attached to the list. Gio Savarese, we kind of had on the list. We kind of knew, we've been talking Gio Savarese for like 8 years. Peter Vermes. So your finalists, Tata, Mancini, Vermes, and Savarese. Gio, yeah, I mean that one was a slam dunk idea. Peter Vermes, I think that with Peter Vermes specifically, and I'm guessing there that Peter Vermes would have wanted control of both soccer and the touchline. He would have wanted to have the resume that he had in Kansas City at Sporting. He would have wanted upstairs and downstairs power. And unless he's just to the point where it's just like, man, I just want a gig. I want to get back out there and coach. Like I said, we don't know where Peter Vermes may have been coming from. Gio, slam dunk that he was on the list. Mancini, We'll go back and look at Mancini's record in a bit. But I think that Peter Vermes, if he was just looking for a gig to be a coach and not have all the headaches of upstairs and downstairs, that's one thing. If he wanted to be upstairs and downstairs and have power in both, hierarchy would not have allowed that for Atlanta United. So I think that's kind of where that is. So let's take a peek, shall we? At Roberto Mancini's record. If I could spell Mancini, we'd be doing it. All right, so Roberto Mancini's coaching record. And obviously we know what happened with him at Manchester City. So he ends up going from Manchester City. He goes to Galatasaray, 2 years at Inter, a season at Zenit, 5 years coaching in Italy, second ever European Championship at Euro 2020, unbeaten for 3 years. World record for most consecutive matches without defeat at 37. And then you end up with a playoff loss to North Macedonia. Reached at least a semifinal of a major national cup competition every season he's been a manager from 2002 to 2014. Most consecutive Coppa Italia finals, 04 to 08. Lazio once. Inter Milan the following 4 seasons. So career stats, managerial stats. Let's go to managerial stats. So go through Manchester City. Win percentage of 59%. 113, 38, and 40. Then it was 9 months at Galatasaray, 24, 13, and 9. It was just under 2 years at Inter, 36, 18, and 23. Zenit, 22, 13, and 10. Italy, 37, 15, and 9. Then it's Saudi Arabia, 8, 7, and 5 in 20 matches. And then 1 draw at Al Sadd, as he has already started his schedule 4 days ago. So if you were to ask Nick about what he thought about Mancini, you go from Euro 2020, then you go forward from there. I think legitimately, I think if you were to ask Nick about Mancini in his time, it would probably be 2 separate stories. The beginning and the recent. 8, 7, and 5 in Saudi Arabia. After the slow fade of Italy and Italy not making it. You can win all the matches you want when you're prepping for tournaments, but if you don't win in tournaments, it doesn't mean a whole lot. So if anybody wants to ask Nick about Mancini, ask Nick about Mancini. You'll get those answers. So that's the hook where Mancini is concerned. Now, rubber meets the road. You're looking at the players currently that you have in camp. You're looking at the players that are going to be drifting in, the players that you want to bring in, either on freeze or out of contract or dropping dime to bring them in. I want to see how it ends up. Morning fork card. So, and if all else fails, if Nick is not on the show tonight, then please feel free to ask Nick on his socials about what he thinks. But I think if you look at Mancini, you're looking at 2 separate Mancini runs here. The beginning and then the recent. And so then he goes to Qatar. He's at Al Sadd. He's signing the big money deal. I want to see how he does with Al Sadd. I really do. So if you're at Al Sadd and you are not competitive there in the Qatar Stars League, where they won the league last year, then if you can't keep the beat, where Al Sadd has won 18 championships, including the last 2 seasons. Al Dahale won back in 22-23. You've won 3 of the last 4, 4 of the last 5. If Al Sadd does not win, Al Dahale has won, dating back to this gap, 13, 14, 14, 15. So it's either Al Dahale or Al Sadd that have won every title except for 1 in the last 12 years. Is that right? 13, 14, 14, 15, 16, 17, 17, 18, 19, 20. So yeah, it looks like it's either Al Sadd or Al Dahale. Al Rayyan won in 15, 16, and then it's just been those. So look, if you can't win with the team that's won the last 2 and 5 of the last 6 in Qatar, that to me would speak volumes as to where Mancini is right now when it comes to his coaching arc. Morning fork card. That was a tangent. I know that's nothing new here, but that's a tangent for the morning. Going from Atlanta United to everything else that's going on. So I'm glad you're here this morning. Now, we started to get into World Cup qualifiers. 15 minutes, Gabe Schray is going to join us, I think, if he's awake. We'll talk League One and college soccer with Gabe coming up in a bit. So we'll catch up with Gabe about 10:30 or so, as we always do. So Gabe will come in at 10:30. We'll talk USL League One. We'll talk SoCon. We'll talk Golden Goal. We'll talk all the things. But to get into a little bit, yes, and 4-card, that's the thing. I think he's just there for the check. That's just me. So we can go a couple of different ways here. Figure what we could do. We could talk about the USMNT. Traditionally, this is the Bart Keeler slot. So we could talk about what happened with the USMNT and what happened with Gio Reyna. We could do that for 15 minutes, and then Gabe Schray will come in, and then we'll mop up and we'll find out what we might have missed on the day, and then we'll go through all the stories and get you ready for soccer over there tonight. Once again, Brew House, 8 o'clock, and we're looking forward to seeing everybody out there in off of Moreland Ave tonight, for those of you that want to make the run or just hang out with us here virtually as you always do. Okay. USMNT is in the middle of their window, and it was against Paraguay in Philly. And you kind of wondered if the visitors had been played, the visitors meaning Paraguay, not the visitors meaning the U.S., if the visiting team from outside the country had been placed in the Philadelphia locker room to get dressed and everything. Because especially late, and I'm going to save the Gio Reyna goal because it's more of a talking point at this point. But you had a moment at the tail end of the match, courtesy of our friends at TNT, BR Sports, and US Soccer, where some folks kind of got their unctions up, and you had a moment in front of the benches when the game was fairly in control with the United States. So this happened late. For those of you that missed it, Luke Wildman, Kyle Martino on the call, and it got ugly.
Out of play it goes for a US throw as we're a minute through the 4 being added on, and there's an altercation here. Gomez at the center of it, things boiling over in stoppage time, and punches being thrown down there as the Paraguay bench are involved. Ugly scenes here in stoppage time. I'm sure the throw was given the way of the US. Quite a scuffle. There is no VAR, of course. So we'll wait and see how the referee deals with this. Gomez heavily involved, the captain. He escalated things.
I mean, Freeman he thinks this is their ball, and he's right. I mean, just goes to pick it up. I mean, he's not the instigator. It's his ball. I mean, Gomez goes to reach around him, and I mean, at this point, and there's several players that come off that Paraguay bench, and I watched one in particular that takes a swing. You see a few times there, swings coming at the legs of Freeman.
BR Sports, TNT, Luke and Kyle. And Gio Reyna scores in the 4th minute. Drew his first start for the U.S. in more than 16 months. And you end up with the win for the United States going up against Paraguay, 2-1 win there. And you had Sebastian Berhalter and Miles Robinson, 2 of the first in the pile, as folks were trying to make sure that Alex Freeman was not going to hang on to the ball. Gomez, who basically was hanging on to Alex Freeman at the point, decided that he didn't want to let that throw-in happen. For some reason, he thought that it was either theirs, meaning Paraguay's, or that he was just going to kind of gum up the works a little bit. So Reyna scores in the fourth. Arce scores 6 minutes later. Folarin Balogun scores with 20 to go. And the altercation happened just as the 90 minutes was coming to a close in front of 17,224. Stuck with the hybrid back three, setting up as a 4-4-2 in defense, 3-5-2 in possession. You know how, as we always mention, that formations are a bit of a loose construct. And so you had the issues out of the after you score and then trying to break things down. The numbers on the board, courtesy of our friends at Soccer America, Matt Freeze, fairly quiet night. Defenders, Scally, Robinson, and Ream. And they're going, wow, they're actually going to 0.5s now when it comes to Soccer America. Scally and Miles 5.5, Tim Ream is 6.5. Found it, and so Ream finds himself exposed, especially in the counterattack when Max Arfston would go forward. And so you had Ream isolated. But once again, the progression that Tim Ream had helped out in that manner. Tanner Tessman, Christian Roldan, both getting 6.5. And this is weird looking at Soccer America getting 6.5s now. Serginho Dest, Max Arfston, Brendan Aronson, Reyna, and Balogun. Dest a 5.5, Reyna an 8 for the goal. Brendan Aronson a 6.5, Folarin Balogun a 7 with the goal. Max Arfston got a 7. Diego Luna, Pepe, Freeman, Berhalter all coming off the bench along with Aiden Morris. Alex Freeman a 6.5. Diego Luna gets a 7. Aiden Morris got a 6. Pepe a 4.5. Timothy Tillman a 6. And Sebastian Berhalter coming in with a cup of coffee. Not given a rating for what he ended up with on the night. Reyna's goal was his 9th of his international career, passing his father, Claudio, with 8. First goal on a header for club or country. Folarin Balogun, the only center forward called in for all 3 fall international windows, scored in each. And now tomorrow they play Uruguay in Tampa at the Pirate Ship. So starting lineup, Freeze, Miles, Ream, Scally, Diego Luna with the sub with 23 to go. Dest starting, Alex Freeman coming in the 57th. Tessman, Roldan, Morris coming in for 15. Reyna, Tillman coming in for 15. Aronson, Berhalter coming in for 10. Arfston, Balogun, and Pepe coming in for 15. Yellow cards, Robinson, Reyna, Roldan for the chaos at 90+4. Paraguay, Gonzalez, Bobadilla, Alonso at 90+4. Aldrete, who was in a penny on the bench, was the one that was trying to grab, it looked like, at Alex Freeman and possibly even take a swing at him, because that was a massive humanity in front of that camera at the 50. Aldrete gets a red at 90+4. You know, in the grand scheme of things, does this just mean like in the next friendly Aldrete doesn't play? Or is it like in the rules that we have at MLS Next Pro, next match against US, you don't play? I don't know. While necessary, it seems kind of frivolous, if you know what I'm saying. 8 shots for the U.S., 4 for Paraguay, 4 shots on target compared to 3, 2 saves each, 13 corners, 8 to Paraguay, 24 fouls, 13 to the U.S., offside, 4 on the night, 3 for Paraguay, possession 56-44. Mauricio Pochettino, after the match, was asked by Stephen Goff about what he thought about the 90 minutes there in Philly.
Could you tell us your thoughts on Gio, your decision to start him, and what you thought of his performance overall?
Well, I think we performed really well. I think it was a great game. Really tough game against a team like Paraguay that is really competitive. I think the performance overall was good. So happy with the whole roster, the whole group, the players that play and the players that didn't play, with the staff. I think that is in the way that we want to compete. I think it was a very competitive game that made me very, very happy. Of course, the result is there. It's always good to win, to feel the victory. But the most important is what we saw during more than 90 minutes, the spirit, the fight. But then in the way that played the team, I think it's bigger. In the bigger picture is that we need to prize, and to give credit to the player, because in the way that we play against a team that is very difficult to play, I think the football that we saw on the pitch, I think was very entertainment. I think we enjoy, and we didn't have the ball in another phase. I think we did what we need to do. That is why. That is in the way that we need to improve. Well, he scored, and I think he did a very good job. So happy with him. He showed why he started, and he has confirmed that he's a player that need to improve because he need to play more in his club. But we can see today that he was great, score and assist, and in the way that always the capacity to read the game and find the free space in between the line. I think that was a nightmare for Paraguay, and I think he did a very good job.
And so Mauricio Pochettino says that Gio Reyna needs to play more for his club. That comes from Monday through Friday, and cryo and rehab on Sunday. So we'll see if this kind of a performance impacts Gio Reyna when it comes to playing for club, considering what he was able to do this past time out playing for country. And like I said, we'll see what happens. Mauricio Pochettino also called out to the fans of the United States to be there more, be more supportive. I'll try and find the quote and bring it up this week as well as we get closer and closer into the match against Uruguay coming up tomorrow. But we'll get into that as well. But those are the two big things. Really, I liked what I saw from the United States when you had folks trying to sit there and cause trouble. I'll just phrase it that way. The headlock that Gomez put on Alex Freeman, then Alex Freeman said he basically wasn't going to be taking any of that ish, and you could see that Freeman kind of bowed up a little bit, and he was about ready to take a swing at Gomez, but he pulled his hand back. And then you have everybody from the Paraguay bench come forward. You have Sebastian Berhalter come over. You have Miles come over, and it looked like Miles was getting immediately impacted by being a part of the fracas. And so I liked what I saw there with the fight amongst with the players amongst the opposition in a situation like that got well out of hand. And you could tell also that the center ref was pretty much like, I've given my card to Aldrete. I've given out a couple of yellows, and I think I'm good. So Christopher Corrado from Guatemala, you could tell, I don't think he wanted to go the full 4. He just kind of was like, 90 plus 2. When things kind of started, 90 plus 4, he gets just like, how long do I have to do to get this out of here? Okay, can we just go ahead and start this, and I'll point to the center circle. That's kind of what it looked like with Corrado, that he wanted nothing to do with it. And once everything kind of kicked back in, you got maybe about a minute's worth of action. There was some kickabout in the midfield, and that was about all. So U.S. once again, second match in the window coming up tomorrow, and we will go over the other quotes from Mauricio Pochettino leading into the match. Once again, tomorrow's show, KCD is going to join us at 9:15. We've got Reginald Barnes joining us from AC Grand Rapids at 10. Jen Hildreth joining us at 10:45. Okay. As always, we have folks that are on the Tom Coughlin scale. And Gabe, if you would be so kind to turn your device sideways so you can take up the entire screen for me. So that way it's so just kind of turn it like 45 degrees, because right now you're like there you go. There it is. Now you're taking up the full screen. There. Don't move it from there, and then reset. And this is how we're producing kind of to folks in green room. So there he's good. Let me bring him in. That's how it's. There you go. Long ways, sir.
Yeah. Did you see me trying to do it in the waiting room?
No, I didn't. I just saw the 3 stripes, and I was like, okay, Gabe's in the middle, so I'll just go ahead and tell him to turn it a quarter turn.
It wasn't behaving for me. I'm like, okay, well, I guess I'm going to be old man vertical today. That's funny you said that, Tom Coughlin.
I am old man vertical, but well, the thing is that if you're 5 minutes early, you're on time. If you're on time, and if you're late, then Tom Coughlin's like, the door's locked and you ain't coming to practice. So
I love it.
All right. So are you still in a hotel in Greenville, South Carolina, or did you go home?
I'm in Florida.
Oh, okay. You're in Florida.
Yeah.
Okay. So is that where you called the SoCon from yesterday?
No, I was in Greenville, South Carolina. Do you want me to break down the weekend I've had?
Yeah, you need to break down the weekend for me because I'm already confused.
Okay, you ready? So Wednesday night, I cut out and drove from Chattanooga to Kingsport, Tennessee, which is about a 3.5 hour drive.
Yes, it is.
Set up super late, like 2 a.m. Got set up for the Appalachian Athletic Conference volleyball tournament in one of the ballrooms there. Mm-hmm. Brought in a great announcer from Indiana, Dean Jackson, to help out. I did the first day with him and then handed it off on Friday. Went to Clinton, South Carolina, and called a college basketball game on ESPN, drove back to Chattanooga, stayed the night, got up, scrambled to get ready for college football, called the first ever AAC championship football game on Saturday at noon in Waleska, Georgia, just outside of Atlanta.
Mm-hmm.
Home, changed, drove to Kingsport, tore down equipment, moved stuff to a ballroom for a Hall of Fame dinner stream, got all my stuff out of the hotel room, came back home, slept for 4 hours, drove to Greenville, called the SoCon title, then drove straight there to Orlando. So I'm now in Orlando. That's the kind of psychopath you have to be to broadcast sports.
You ain't kidding, brother. Man, that's how many different conferences?
That's a lot. That's 3. It's only 3.
Okay.
The opponent was a SoCon on Friday, so
Okay. All
Big
right.
South, SoCon, AAC.
Yes. And so it's the way that we can kind of break things down. And I've got a couple of things that I wanted to go and discuss with you here, sir, while you're there in Florida. I do have what went down in the SoCon final. So I guess this is toward the end of your story. The SoCon final with you and Matty Cruz. Going into this one with Furman and UNC Greensboro, what kind of a match were you expecting, and how was it over that 90 minutes where if you looked at the scoreboard, you're kind of going, goalless, What was it like after 90 minutes?
Oh, no, it was not a goalless. It was oh, my goodness, I've never seen so many close scoring chances. I think Maddie might have felt a little different. I don't know if she's already been on. I think she was more frustrated with the fact that they couldn't finish once they'd get down there. I was loving it. Like Seth Wilson played out of his mind. It's too bad for the Spartans that somebody had to lose that title game, right? He played out of his mind. Ivan looks like the goalkeeper of the year. Great pick by the Southern Conference in that. I mean, they were unbelievable. Scoring chance, hammered, long pitches, high press. It was so much fun. I was having a blast. First half flew by. So then with how much the pace had picked up before the half, her and I talked off mic and again on the halftime show and kind of were like, I think this is going to be a track meet in the second half. Really felt like that's how it was going to go. It really slowed down. The first portion of that second half was kind of boring. Not the action we had gotten used to. Tatufa was pretty involved. A lot of the stars, really made their presence felt in that second half, whereas it had been more of a whole team match in the first half. But somehow we make it to the death scoreless, and it never felt boring to me. It felt like a track meet, full time, lots of fun. And so I started getting goosebumps right away. I'm like, we're looking for a golden goal here. This is unreal. This is like a once-in-a-lifetime experience for me. First overtime, nothing. I'm like, this is just insane. We're going to go to a shootout, which I did not want a shootout. Selfishly, I'm like, I really don't. I do love the shootout, and it's exciting, but there's some purity to the NCAA golden goal, right? And it's quite a magical moment that you can only capture in that kind of level. And so I'm like, I really want the golden goal. I really wanted a regulation goal or a golden goal. And there was a few chances in both overtimes, and I'm like, this is it right here. And it didn't happen. And all of a sudden, Mr. Reed made a great follow, great read, if you will, on the ball. I know. Sorry, Ryan. Wilson made a great diving save. I don't know if you've seen the highlight. Perfect placement, great positioning. I mean, that is a really well-coached keeper. He knew where to have his body in between the sticks, knew how to position himself, made the athletic save. But how do you defend Reed making an even better play? Reed, before the ball was even kicked, starts to move. If you watch that, his hips start to flip because he knows Wilson's going to make the save. Wilson bats it, and Ryan has followed right to the spot where the ball is coming back. That is just that's a kid who has played a lot of soccer. That's a kid who has been playing since he was 4 years old, that knows that's going to get saved, that knows he can follow that home for the winner, and he does it. And it's just an amazing moment, truly like an iconic golden goal. I'm sure the Southern Conference is just thrilled that that's how that ended. I don't think it gets more exciting than that.
And here was the call, as a matter of fact, with Gabe and Maddie, courtesy of our friends at ESPN Plus from Greenville, South Carolina, yesterday.
Long ball for the spot, not, and Wilson knocks it away. The golden goal. The Paladins of Furman follow it home to the twine. 1-0 with 3:41 left in overtime 2. Your Southern Conference champions.
able to capitalize off of the moment. It's Seth Wilson who's able to get the initial save, and then in the follow-through on the rebound, Furman's able to slot it home. I mean, absolutely outstanding. Banging on the door. Furman's been trying it all game long, and they finally find it. They find the game winner, and they are your 2025 SoCon champion.
Courtesy of our friends at ESPN Plus, and this is something that I want to let everybody in on, behind the scenes. You laid out, and there was a reason I was counting on camera. You and Maddie laid out for 16 seconds after that goal was scored. Not every announcer does that in that kind of a situation. The art of the layout is something that gets lost, I think, these days with some announcers, where let the moment breathe, let people find out about it, and let them embrace the moment as well. Full credit to you and Maddie for laying out as long as you did there on a video, on a TV match, the way that you did to show how you're going to get a champion out of Furman.
Maddie's so good. Everything she said brought real value. If you've done so many broadcasts now, John, and I'm a broadcasting nerd, so I'm excited you brought that up. There's a lot of analysts that just say generic stuff, generic filler. When I serve as an analyst, even for American football, I feel like a lot of times I'm just saying some fluff. Great play right there. I keep it really positive. I don't even like to get technical because I feel like if you start to get too technical and you're like, oh, that's a spider 2 wide banana, triple zone, nickel dime, right? Like you want everybody to be able to understand what you're talking about. The audience is not just people who really love football. It's everybody. It's a grandma who does not understand the game that's watching her grandson. It's a sister who doesn't like football but is supporting her brother. And so you want them to be entertained as well. And that's always been a struggle for me to bring that value as an analyst. That's why I'm a play-by-play guy. I don't know any sport that well. Maddie did a great job from kickoff to the final whistle. That 107th minute goal. When I started doing USL 1, the MLS uses a talent consultant for their Fox broadcasting. And he stopped me in the hallway and he said, you know how to lay out. And he said, not a lot of guys do that. That's funny you bring that up. And shout out to Maddie for the patience, because as soon as that goal got scored, I finished the call and I went, hold on. And that was a long time, but man, you don't have to talk if the crowd can tell the story. And that crowd told the story of Paladin pride, of a 16th championship, back-to-back titles, the 11th for a 31st year head coach that's retiring, Doug Allison. There was nothing to say.
No. And you and Maddie handled that situation really well in a hot environment with a hot crowd in the SoCon, and we're all waiting now for the Division I grid to come out when it comes to the postseason and men's soccer in 2025. All right, the other topic that I wanted to bring in has to do with the league that finished their regular season in 25 yesterday. And it was pillar to post for One Knox. I mean, literally, it was one of those seasons where you look at what Ian Fuller has done, and short of Chattanooga, it was one of those seasons where you're like, all right, you guys are the top dog, and I know that everybody's going to have to sit there and try and knock you off of it. And two highlights I want to get through here. The second one is the one that brings the thought bubble and the question marks over the head. I don't know if you've had a chance to see the highlights or not, but early opportunity here for One Knox to get on the board first half. And in front of that sellout crowd, they did exactly that, courtesy once again of our friends at USL League One and ESPN Plus.
Nudged forward by Callum Johnson. Tequila down the far side for Zeracostas, who chops it back not once but twice. Still Zeracostas, and it's a tap-in.
DN to come across, pull out the two center backs, which gives Rosamili the ability to get goals.
So you have Zeracostas with the assist and sitting it right in the middle of things, and it's 1-0 at that point. And then there's a moment in the second half as Spokane is chasing after an equalizer. And for folks that were watching this is traditionally why we bring in Bart Keeler to do cards and calls, because it's reminiscent of a call that Atlanta United was they were on the wrong end of because it was called incorrectly. Here's the play. We're going to play it and the PK, and we'll walk through it after the fact. Once again, courtesy of our friends at ESPN Plus and USL League One.
Great ball in from Jordan Skelton. Now, notice the amount of numbers able to go forward with the end and Tequila right side of your screen.
Richie on the overlap goes down. And the referee's pointed for a penalty. It was inside the 18-yard box.
Of replay here, but notice the initial contact here from Lucky Opara. It's clearly outside the 18-yard box, about half of a yard.
And Carlos Marancio, who was the hero in the shootout in the semifinal. Big moments in the quarterfinal as well. But he's beaten by Kempis Tequila, who makes no mistake from the penalty spot. Tequila was the hero in the semifinal. He scores a goal in the final under controversy, but Spokane are down 2-0, 1 knocks, and their fans won't care one bit.
Right in the Semis, point to 12 yards out, and still, if you are Tequila, you need to execute it. Notice the hits at the last second. He opens them, Marancio goes one way at the last second. That's when he closes his hips and just ropes this ball to this near post. Really well taken pen from Tequila, and 1 knocks double their lead.
Now, the play in question, and it was referenced in the replay of the call. When they go back to replay, you hear, I believe it was Ricky Lopez-Espin who was doing color, and you notice that the end zone shot shows that the foul happened outside the 18. Play continued, player goes down inside the 18. The way, if I'm remembering the rule correctly, you go back to the spot of the foul, not to where a player falls down. And so if he falls down inside the 18 and the most of the action happens inside the 18, if the foul happens outside the 18, you're supposed to go to that point of the foul. They instead call it a penalty. Tequila converts it. It's 2-0, and 1 knocks goes on for the title. I'm not saying that this is going to impact one thing or another in the match. I'm just saying that the foul happened outside the 18, and it should have been a set piece from about 19 and a half yards out as opposed to a shot from the spot.
I agree.
Oh, and so 1 knocks gets the title. From the time that you spent in League One this season, when you look at what you've seen from 1 knocks, what has stuck in your brain about what Ian Fuller has done this year?
There's just no way to stop them. I mean, they always found a new way to score. I mentioned it the last 2 weeks I've mentioned it, but like every week that I was covering 1 knocks, I'd be like, oh, I'm doing 1 knocks this week. Like, oh, they can always score on set pieces. Good on set pieces. I didn't see a single set piece goal. Did you see a set piece goal there? No. Well, actually, they did have the penalty, but come on. I know where are these set piece goals everyone's talking about. Great season, man. Ian Fuller's all business. I mean, I saw that Stavros Zaragoza goal in the 4th minute. Exact same formula towards the end of the year. It was Babacar Dian, though, that was just in front of the 6-yard box. Very same play, right down the end line, right from the right side of the stick, right if you're facing the goal, pitched out front, and Babacar chested it in. He came up and hit it with his chest and just perfect delivery. I mean, that they just always have some sort of trick in the bag, up the sleeve. Very athletic, very physical, well coached. They know all facets of the game. And, if you try to say, oh, 1 knocks is going to win on the counter by pressing up from midfield and getting great passes over the top, you'd be wrong, because they can also high press and they're great on the back and they are great at possession and they're good. You know what I mean? They're just good at every facet of the game. And so similarly to like we talked about NYRB2 and MLS Next Pro, the conversation was never how does 1 knocks win? It was how does anyone else beat 1 knocks? And that remained the conversation all the way to the title game. How does Spokane, with all their brilliance, with all their physicality, with all their talent, with a brilliant mind like he'd been leading them along the touchline, how do they overcome the overwhelming 1 knocks? And the answer was they don't, unfortunately for them. But fun to watch them play. 7,500 fans, historic night. Shout out to the broadcast team. They did a fantastic job. 2 superstars, Ricky Lopez-Espin, one of my favorite guys I've ever worked with. And just a great all-around show. Lots of fun to watch, and definitely took a moment to watch the highlights. That first goal, though, was just unreal in the 4th minute. I mean, that was a great tone setter. And from there, you wipe away the shot from the spot, make it a set piece, and it's 1-0. It's still all 1 knocks.
All right, time to get out the yearbook at USL 1 High School. and look at the senior superlatives. Everyone has signed the yearbook. They've made their messages. Hey, Westchester SC, you were a great student. Thanks for coming to USL League One High. We'll see you in 2026. Those kinds of things. Yes, exactly. You go to the librarian. If Westchester goes to the librarian, hey, can you sign my yearbook for me? Thank you for returning all of your books on time this season. Back to the library. And you look at it and you go, the librarian signed my yearbook. One of those kinds of things. Looking at the awards from the year and who got voted what. JC Obregon, obviously player of the year, 17 regular season goals and a standout campaign for the first-year club. Obviously, if you take Obregon's numbers and what he meant to Westchester, literally it was, a goal difference of -16. Think of what the season would have been for Westchester if Obregon was not there.
Not great. Not a good look. He was unreal. I mean, one of my favorite athletes I've seen play all year, if not in the last few years. New York native. So really cool to see a guy from the area sign with Westchester and help them out. Super athletic, brilliant in all facets of the game. And there's nobody, listen, I'm an American soccer fan. I love scoring. I want to see the lid blown off. I want to call a 6-0 match where Inter Miami 2 comes to Chattanooga and gets their brakes beat off, right? I live for that. Juan Carlos Obregon is one of the most exciting goal scorers you're going to see play the game. And every time he scores, it seems like it is very obvious he is about to score. He breaks away on a counter. He's got the ball. He is so fast, he can just yo-yo that thing right around you. And even though he's got the ball and he's controlling it, he's just too fast. You're not going to get in his way. You're not going to stop him. You're not going to shut him down. A couple of those cutback scores that I got to call this year that he made, unreal. They're some of my favorite goals I've ever seen. The athleticism, the physicality, and just the pure raw talent out of him is really unmatched and well-deserved player of the year.
Mark Bronick gets Young Player of the Year from his time at Union Omaha. 6 goals for Union Omaha as they made the push in the second half of the year because they were down below the playoff bar and early in the season, and they did not get off to a good start. They kept stepping on rakes any opportunity they got. It's like they step on the one rake, they get smashed in the head. They turn to the left, get smashed with another rake, and it's like the shooting gallery where you sit there, you take the rigged BB gun and you're trying to shoot the duck, and the duck goes here and goes back and forth every time you hit it. That's what it looked like with Union Omaha, just trying to get out of their own way. They hit fire probably the halfway point of the season. And our friend Jamie Henderson, now sporting director up there, and they got north of the playoff bar and caused some problems. Bronick is Young Player of the Year. Scott McKenzie's League One Coach of the Year ahead of Ian Fuller.
Yeah. I mean, we talked about this already. Funny, I feel like it's funny I picked Juan Carlos. Like, that's kind of low-hanging fruit with so many goals scored, 17 goals scored. Ian Fuller, I get it, but probably the same reasoning that I said, right? Scott McKenzie and the Chattanooga Red Wolves were consistent. They were durable. They rode the wave, and they sailed the ship through the season. He stuck with his game plan, and McKenzie is going to have a long, successful career in the beautiful game because of the way that he operates on the touchline, on the field, and training. Just really impressive showing again this season, and excited to see him be able to win that award for his hard work and the way he turned the Red Wolves around and took them from it's probably going to be a rough year for Chattanooga to, oh, wow, look out for the Red Wolves, here they come. Pretty cool stuff.
Jordan Skelton gets League One Defender of the Year, sets a single season record in League One with 34 blocks for 1 knocks. And then Sean Lewis at 1 knocks gets Keeper of the Year once again, getting ready for the League One final. I think he had 74 clean sheets this season in League One. So, the fact that 1 knocks got a bit of a monopoly on the postseason awards, no real surprise, but Jordan Skelton for defender and Sean Lewis for keeper.
And that back line on 1 knocks is so good. Like some other guys that maybe should have been in the running, right? Like Jordan Skelton had an unreal year, but that whole back line of 1 knocks is nuts. I mean, you get through midfield and it's like, oh, now I've got to face this superstar back line. I just barely got through midfield. It's no wonder nobody can score on him. And Lewis is back there bored, picking at the grass like he's 6 years old because nobody ever comes to see him on that end of the field. He's all alone down there. He had a great year. Every time somebody was able to get through that defense and get a quality shot off on him, which you see a lot of in USL 1, he was ready. I mean, he was lights out, and 74 clean sheets is about right.
Yeah.
Impenetrable brick wall. I can't say enough about what one Knox was able to do on the field this year from a technical standpoint, from an excitement standpoint, from a league growth standpoint, from a game growth standpoint. 7,500 fans at the final in Knoxville on Rocky Top. That's sick. They cut the net down. I love it. It was great. It was a great outing. It was exactly what USL 1 needed. It was exactly not what they needed. It was what they deserved. It was a great ending to an awesome season. Very well managed. A lot of fun to follow along. Loved every minute of it.
All right. So now, why are you in South Florida?
I am here for some vague, suspicious meetings. And, yeah, a little suspicious activity this week. I'm not in Florida. I'm in Orlando. So I'm going to cut over to Jacksonville and visit not the Miami Dolphins, but the Dolphins, and then head back to Chattanooga, Tennessee. Got some PC football this weekend, Marist, and hoping I can maybe pick up some more soccer. We'll see.
Okay, yeah, because as the Blue Hose continue to work their way in the postseason when it comes to the other stuff that we do on the other side of the aisle here at the store, might catch up with you and get our Blue Hose intel as well. As always, my friend, great to see you. Thanks for dropping by and giving us everything that happened with the SoCon with USL League One. Don't be a stranger. You got the keys to the kingdom. You can crash it at any time.
Hey, thanks for having me. I will call you soon, my friend.
Go get some coffee in a Danish or something.
I haven't had any coffee yet. I'm ready.
Okay, go get your coffee.
All right, I'll talk to you soon, man. Thank you for having me.
There goes Gabe Schray, everybody, and Schray guy. He's hanging out with us and letting us know what's going on in League One, what's going on in the college game. Once again, I think 1:00. I think is when the brackets come out, and we'll keep an eye on all of that. Couple of notes that have happened in Major League Soccer for news and notes. And remember, you've got a little under a month before you have to make your final roster decisions, getting ready for everything for 26. It is quick notes from our friends at The Athletic. Apparently, Carlos Coronel's time with Red Bulls is done. They did not agree on anything involving a contract extension. No agreement reached, and this is once again from Tommy Scoops, out of contract at the end of December, and they could not reach a deal. Departing the club when the contract expires in the winter. Talks between the club and Coronel did not reach an agreement. Parties are separating. Coronel out of contract, eligible for MLS free agency, 180 appearances for Red Bulls, and was a part, obviously, of a key part of their run to MLS Cup last winter. 31 appearances in the 25 season. Paraguayan international, 9 caps for country, starting the first 6 matches in World Cup qualifying. Paraguay secured qualification to the 26 World Cup in September. Red Bulls acquired veteran keeper John McCarthy from the LA Galaxy this summer, gave him a new deal. And they've also got AJ Marcucci, who once again is recovering from injury, and highly rated U.S. Youth International Aiden Stokes. Stokes started at the U17s. Following that, Stokes traveled to RB Leipzig for a training stint. So keep an eye on Carlos Coronel and what his future could be. So Carlos Coronel and the Red Bulls, they are officially not dance partners anymore. So we'll keep an eye on that as we go and you get into what's going on in the postseason, because right now we're probably 2 months away from training camp. You're less than a month away from what's going on in roster decisions. Everybody's got to be in by the 11th of December, because that's after MLS Cup. So you have until then. If you haven't, and if you're still playing, you have until then. So less than a month to make roster decisions, and then 2 months to training camp. Decisions were made by Nashville earlier this morning, exercising contract options for Lovitz, Muil, Pasius, and Javier Valdez. Declined contract options on the following: Brian Acosta, Gaston Brugman, Maximus Eck, Julian Gaines, Tate Schmidt, Wyatt Meyer, and Joe Willis. Out of contract, Teal Bunbury and Walker Zimmerman. So Nashville declines contract options on Joe Willis and is not renewing a contract at the moment or any kind of a discussion with Teal Bunbury or Walker Zimmerman. So keep an eye on all of that. According to Nashville, Taylor Washington obviously is not returning, announced his retirement effective at the end of the 25 season. So you have, as put forth by the club, core group of veterans, 2025 newcomers, young players won the first major professional sports trophy in Tennessee history, winning the Open Cup, led Nashville SC to club records in playoff, regular season and playoff wins with 17, wins across all comps with 22, goals scored 75, 61 in Major League Soccer. Sam Surridge had 25 and 5, 31 goals all comps. Hani Mukhtar, 18 and 12 and 40 appearances. Andy Nahar, 3 and 10 and 40. Jason Palacios, 2+2 and 28. Ahmed Kassem, 3 goals and an assist in 33. Midfielder Eddie Tagset, 4 assists in 39. Core group of young players, all age 24 or younger, including Chris Applewhite, 7 appearances and 4 starts, and we got to see him with the Huntsville City Football Club. Midfielder Matthew Corcoran, 3 assists and 14 appearances. And Corcoran was, once again, someone we saw at Huntsville City, and B.J. Callahan not afraid to put him in the lineup, especially during the playoff run. Jonathan Perez, 2 goals, 3 assists, 25 appearances. Brian Schweicke, 5 wins in the run to the Open Cup Championship. Patrick Yazbek, a goal and 5 assists, and a pair of homegrowns in Isaiah Jones and Adam Sipic, once again, players we've seen at Huntsville City. Acosta, Brugman, Bunbury, Schmidt, Willis, and Zimmerman eligible for free agency, which opens December 10. To be eligible, players have to be 24. The preceding league season concludes and have at least 4 MLS service years. Clubs are free to engage. Available free agents starting at noon Central Time, so 1 o'clock Eastern, December 10th. So we're 3 weeks away. 3 weeks away from all of that. Gaines and Meyer eligible for re-entry draft stage 1 and 2, if needed, December 11 and 17. Eligible players include those who are at least 22, have a minimum of 1 service year, and who are not eligible for free agency. Eck is available for 2025 end-of-year waivers, which opens December 9, closes at 5 o'clock Eastern, December 11. That's consisting of players whose options are not exercised, who are not subject to right of first refusal, and who are not eligible for free agency or re-entry. So the roster for Nashville: Valdez and Schweicke in net. Nashville might be on the market, or they're very, very confident with those 2. Defenders: Applewhite, who's a homegrown, Bauer, Knight, Lovitz, Mar, Nahar, and Palacios. Midfield: Corcoran, homegrown Isaiah Jones, Mukhtar, Muil, Perez, Schaffelberg, Kassem, Tagset, Yazbek. Forwards: Boyd, Pasius, Sipic, a homegrown, and Sam Surridge. So that's what Nashville looks like right now. Nashville posted that listing this morning, so that is where Nashville sits going into the end of season roster decisions and free agency and re-entry and all that kind of stuff. So they put their chips to the center of the table, 3 weeks to spare. So now they're going to look at everybody else. But Carlos Coronel, that's the interesting one to me from this morning, where they are apparently not agreeing, Red Bulls and Coronel's camp, on a future together. They're kind of like, yeah, we're good. It's not you, it's me. And so that's where you are with Red Bulls. And so we mentioned who's, what the Red Bulls keeper situation is with McCarthy and Morris and another couple of folks, and AJ Marcucci as he comes back from injury. So the salary number that was there for Carlos Coronel, let's go ahead and this is one of those things. Your connection's not private. I'm aware of this. It's like you sit there and you go to an old bookmark and it tells you, your connection is not private. I'm aware. Carlos Coronel, just to give you an idea, his base salary was $550,000, guaranteed compensation just under $600,000. $600,000 for a keeper. And Coronel, as the club roster profiles continue to load. That's awesome. That's a good way to start. So, so it's there we go. All right, so it took just reloading it to reload. Okay, so Red Bulls. So let's take a peek at Red Bull's situation. Choupo-Moting and Emil Forsberg were your two DPs. They were on the 3-and-3 model. They only had the U22s they had were Bogac, Noah Isla, and Dennis Genjar. So you had 12 international slots and 3 other players in Mina, Mosqueda, and Rojas that got the dreaded asterisk. So 12 that were there for international slots and then 3 others. Designated players, Eric Maxim, Choupo-Moting, and Emil Forsberg. Your TAM players, Berggren, Duncan, Hack, and Morgan. Kyle Duncan, by the way, is a TAM player, and he has an option to be considered. Coronel was out of contract after this season. So it was just a decision that had to be made. Do we continue talking, or do we go our separate ways? Sean Nealis and Tim Parker have option years to be considered after this one. AJ Marcucci, who is on the injured list, has 2 option years after this to be looked at. Curtis Afori, as a homegrown, has an option year after this to be looked at. Peter Stroud has 2 option years after this to be looked at. And then you had a couple of players off roster who are through 28 with their contracts. So Red Bulls really didn't have a whole lot of decisions that had to be made. But literally, they had 1 player out of contract after this year, Carlos Coronel. And guess what? Carlos Cornell's on the market, and last year made just under $600,000 as a keeper. And that's full compensation package, just under $600,000. Joe Willis, by the way, as we sit here and try to figure out salary info and these kinds of things. So Joe Willis, by comparison, in Nashville. So if we go to Nashville SC's numbers, once again, courtesy of our friends at the Players Association. You have we'll go to Walker Zimmerman and we'll look up Joe Willis as well. So Joe Willis was making 600 base, 658,000 and a third. So I'm guessing it was a 3-year deal that he signed. So 658 and a third total compensation for Joe Willis, same neighborhood as Carlos Coronel. Walker Zimmerman was making 3.2 base, full compensation just under $3.5 million, $3,456,979 is the number that's listed by the MLS Players Association. So what you've done with Walker Zimmerman is send your number 2 salary on its way. Hani Mukhtar at 3.9, Zimmerman, and this is just base. This is base, not full comp. So base and full comp for Mukhtar put him just over 5 and a third, or 5.3. It's a 3-year deal because it ends in 667. So Hani Mukhtar, $5,311,667. Then Sam Surge, full compensation just over 3.2. Walker Zimmerman, full compensation just over 3.4. Your number 2 salary gone to get you ready for the 26th season. You have 2 other players in Boyd and Brugman that were on your books. Brugman had an option declined, so his $1.4 million in total comp out the door. So that's what you're looking at with Nashville. So Nashville making some moves. Mukhtar, Surge, and Zimmerman, you open up a DP spot. This was not a contract renewal for Zimmerman. He was out of contract. You have 1 more year with Mukhtar and Surge with option years to follow. Brugman was a TAM with an option pickup. Brian Acosta was a TAM, was a straight-up player contract with an option year. Teal Bunbury out of contract. Muil had an option. Joe Willis had an option. It was declined. Supplemental decisions were Julian Gaines with an option, Wyatt Meyer, who has 3 option years, Passius, who has 2 option years, Tate Schmidt with an option year, Valdez with 2 option years, Taylor Washington retired. So that's what you're staring at with Nashville. Bunbury gone, Zimmerman gone, Willis, option not renewed. And in the same ballpark as Carlos Coronel when it comes to salary. At least that's what it was last year. So that's what you're staring at with the decisions that came out of Nashville this morning. What else is on the board? You can catch a lot of it tonight on Soccer Over There, 8 o'clock. We'll be at the Brew House. We'll discuss everything World Cup qualifying. We didn't even get into CONCACAF. We didn't get into Europe. We didn't get into any of that. But that is kind of the way of the show sometimes. It's like we have all these topics on the table, and there are a lot of times where, honestly, legitimately, we need a third hour. Like I said, that's just me. That's just me. But I know that we all kind of grab onto the comet's tail every single morning, and we try and figure out, okay, this is what we want to talk about. Do we go there? Do we not? Do we get the chance to go there? Do we not? CONCACAF Tuesday is going to be insane. We'll talk about it tonight. Euros were insane over the weekend, and you've still got more Euros to discuss. We'll talk about it tonight. Once again, 8 o'clock, Soccer Over There from the Brew House. As I sit here and I look at whatever else is on the board. So we heard from Mauricio Pochettino. We heard the fight at the end of that game. Troy Parrott. That sound is out there. We've got it. Might play it tomorrow. Just depends. But tomorrow's going to be a lot of NWSL. And we'll get into a lot of the World Cup qualifying stuff tonight at Soccer Over There. Once again, tomorrow on the morning show, it's going to be Casey White. KCD is going to be on at 9:15. We find out why Derek Barnes wanted to go and take on what's going on in Grand Rapids in MLS Next Pro in 2027 at 10 o'clock. 10:45, it's Jen Hildreth breaking down everything NWSL and every place else that she has touched so far going forward. All right, what to watch, where to watch it, how to watch it, and then we'll be out of here for yet another day here on the network. So today, Fox Soccer Plus, you got a friendly Malta and Poland at 2:45. Finland and Andorra's at noon. European qualifying, Germany and Slovakia at 2:45. Cape Verde and Egypt are going on right now on Fox Deportes. So if we were to go and check out the juice boxes for today and let you know what's going on with your qualification activity, it is 6 matches today, and it is Czech Republic and Gibraltar. Czech Republic a minus 5,000. No shock. Germany, big favorite against Slovakia to minus 455. Malta is a big underdog going up against Poland at a minus 345. Montenegro hosting Croatia, who's a minus 244. Netherlands hosting Lithuania at a minus 1667. And Northern Ireland and Luxembourg, the match at 245. Northern Ireland is a minus 169. So you have Europe today with what's going on. And keep an eye on the fixtures once again here toward the tail end of the international window. Thanks to Abe Gordon, 92.9 The Game, to discuss what's going on with Voodoo, the Falcons, and the new rules when it comes to the calendar in Major League Soccer. I'm glad we got to go back and discuss that a little bit, plus the TV deal. Thanks to Gabe Schray for dropping in from a Central Florida hotel room and breaking down everything in the SoCon and USL League One. Thanks to all of you guys for coming in this morning and discussing everything with Atlanta United, with the new deal, with Major League Soccer and the calendar switch and all the things that are on your mind as traditionally as we go. So let me see who is here, and we'll say hi to everybody on our way out the door. So I'm going to also get the chance to see if I missed anybody. Morning, David. Morning, Abby. Morning, 4Card. And I agree on Mancini. Just there for the checks. Morning, Ricky, and welcome back from Germany. Looking at morning Pars, morning David, and morning Commando. But yeah, Commando, that's the thing. I don't know how this new schedule impacts all the other competitions that we have. I really don't. That's going to be another part of this jamming of the schedules and finding out what's going on there. And let's see. So Pars and Abby and David and Alex, good morning. And if I remind you of the man with the power, am I the Bachelor or the one that wears the bobby socks? That's my question. Virtual and literal magic, as we talked about voodoo. Morning, OG. It was good to see you the other day at the unveiling of, as I move this way, MLS 2028, NWSL ATL. It was very good. Let's see. So Morning Ricky, you've been back. And Morning Pars, Morning David, and there you go. So that's another go-round of SDH AM. Back at it again, 9:05 tomorrow morning. We are full talking NWSL, and we're talking Next Pro. We're talking about new teams, talking about growth, talking about the why, and anything else on your mind. We'll probably talk Euros too. Thanks for dropping by as you always do. It's another go-round of SDH AM. For everybody here at SDH, I'm just John. Thanks for dropping by as you always do. Since it's the end of the show, that means I get to do this. We'll be back in a little less than 22 hours. Mucha plats, y'all. Enjoy your Monday. Stay safe. We'll catch up soon.